Have you ever found yourself saying something you didn't mean, or feeling overwhelmed by an emotion that seemed far too intense for the moment? A quiet conversation turns into a storm. A small disappointment sends you spiraling. It feels sudden, but it's not. That emotion wasn't born in the moment. It was waiting, buried beneath the surface, unheard, unacknowledged, unresolved. Carl Jung warned us about this long ago. What you resist persists. And he was right. The feelings we silence don't disappear. They grow in the dark until they erupt and take control. Grief becomes irritability. Anger becomes resentment. Fear becomes anxiety. But here's the truth. When you learn how to recognize what's rising, when you finally face what you've avoided, you reclaim control. In this video, you'll learn how unprocessed emotion shapes your daily life, how to spot the quiet signs of emotional dysregulation, and most importantly, how to regulate without suppressing, how to respond without breaking what matters most. Let's begin. Let's imagine a simple moment. Something goes wrong. A plan falls through. A word lands wrong. Silence lingers too long. And suddenly, your chest tightens, not because the moment itself is catastrophic, but because something deeper has been stirred. Your reaction may feel immediate, but it is ancient. The emotion may feel irrational, but it is unresolved. This is how unacknowledged emotions work. They do not knock. They do not ask for permission. They show up uninvited when life echoes something we've buried. As Seneca wisely said, "He is a great man who is able to use reason to restrain his grief, not one who feels nothing." The goal is not to feel nothing. It is to feel with wisdom, to navigate the tides of emotion without drowning in them. Your emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. Aristotle taught that virtue lives in the balance. Anyone can become angry, he said, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree at the right time, that is not easy. He didn't ask us to silence emotion. He asked us to master it. Wisdom lies in listening to emotion, not being led by it blindly, nor denying its existence altogether. You cannot grow by hiding from your heart. You grow by examining it, questioning it, and ultimately understanding it. What emotional dysregulation does to the soul. When emotions are left to rule in silence, they create quiet devastation. Communication becomes clouded. Trust wears thin. Even your own identity begins to blur. And over time, a painful illusion sets in. You start to believe that you are the problem, rather than someone carrying unhealed weight. Simone de Beauvoir once wrote, "One is not born, but rather becomes." But how can you become anything whole if your inner world is fractured by all the truths you never let yourself feel? What emotional dysregulation does to the soul. When emotions are left to rule in silence, they don't disappear. They create quiet devastation. Communication becomes cloudy. Trust begins to wear thin. Even your sense of self starts to blur. And over time, a painful illusion takes hold. You begin to believe you are the problem, instead of realizing you're simply carrying unhealed weight. But how can you become anything whole if your inner world is fractured by truths you never let yourself feel? From triggers to tools, reclaiming sovereignty over emotion. You can't stop emotions from rising, but you can stop them from taking control. Start here. Recognize the moment, that spike of adrenaline, the rush of tears, the heat rising in your chest. Tell yourself, this is an emotional reaction. Naming it gives you power. It gives you space to breathe. Then, pause. If you're overwhelmed in conversation, press pause. Say something like, "Let me think about this. I'll come back when I'm ready." You're not running. You're preparing to respond with strength. Now visualize a dial. Imagine the emotion as a volume knob, and slowly, gently, turn it down. This isn't suppression, it's self-guidance. And remember the wisdom of restraint. As Nietzsche said, invisible threads are the strongest ties. Hold your tongue in moments of chaos. Words born in fire often leave ashes behind. Speak later, when your voice can carry truth, not just pain. Regulation before revelation. You don't have to speak the moment emotion rises. There's power in waiting. Regulate first, reveal later. This isn't hiding, it's grace. It's choosing the moment when your words will heal, not harm. Let your emotions rise. Let them teach you, but let wisdom decide what comes next. Practical ways to anchor yourself. Write it out. Get the storm out of your head and onto the page. Use a notebook, a napkin, the Notes app on your phone, anything. Just let it flow. Writing brings clarity. It frees your heart from the noise. Move your body. Physical movement shifts emotional weight. Walk, stretch, breathe. Let the body carry the mind back to calm. Drink some water. Wash your face. Take a cold shower if you need to. These simple acts ground you. They bring you back to your senses. Back to now. Connect with stillness. Not always with someone else. Sometimes with a tree, or a book, or a moment of silence. Something that listens without interrupting. You don't have to fight the feeling. You just have to stay grounded until it passes. Carl Jung's wisdom, the shadow and the soul. Carl Jung taught us that the parts of ourselves we reject, they don't go away. They become the shadow, and the shadow always finds its way out. The journey isn't about escaping your feelings. It's about turning toward them, looking into the dark, and realizing there's nothing there you can't face. Because every emotion, even the painful ones, has something to teach you. Especially the painful ones. Your emotions aren't weakness. They are maps. They are mirrors. They are messages sent from deep within. In Jung's words, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Don't wait for the pain to speak for you. Listen now, learn now, feel now. Because the moment you stop fearing your emotions is the moment you begin to master your life. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to reflect. And if you feel ready, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found value here, consider subscribing for more insights on the mind, emotion, and the journey within.